Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 66 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 66 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you're new here, welcome. I am so glad that you are listening with me this week. I hope that you stay a while and that you tell someone else that you have found this wonderful podcast that you want to continue to listen to and share and enjoy. And if you've been here before, I just want to say thank you for continuing to rock with me. I know that there are so many other podcasts out there that you could be listening to, and I just appreciate that you have put me in that number. Thank you. And your support means everything. Before we kind of dive into anything, I like to make sure that everybody kind of knows why they're here. Because like I said, there's a lot of podcasts out there. I want to make sure you just didn't stumble here by accident and you're like, oh my God, I spent this time here when I could have bounced. No. The Well Done Life podcast is about women coming together, sharing our stories, and learning and growing from each other. That's why I started the Well Done Life. I really have come to the point in my life where I feel like women are the foundation of society. And we need safe spaces where we can share with each other, where we can learn from each other, and we can inspire each other so that we can all grow and do amazing things. The world needs us, and we need each other. We need to kind of break down some of the walls that we put ourselves in and learn how to listen to what someone else has gone through and how they've made it so that we can really figure out that, one, we're not alone in this journey, and that, two, there are things that maybe we could have avoided by having conversations with each other. There's things that we could learn from just having conversations with each other. It's all about creating that space. So that's what I'm doing. And I hope that by sharing my experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, that I'm giving room for that safety. Because it's not easy for any of us, and we all just need an outlet. So hopefully it'll be an outlet, and this will continue to grow into something magical. So again, thank you for being here. It is Friday night at 9:47, and today I think is, let me just check real quick on my phone because I don't know the dates anymore. Friday, May 28th, which, yes, it is a long holiday weekend. I knew it was a holiday weekend. I just didn't know what particular day it was. So, that's kind of how my mind has been working this week. It's just the usual craziness. I'm looking forward to this holiday weekend. I'm sure you all are too. Hopefully you can get some rest. If you are working, I hope you get a little bit of rest for yourself. But I also hope that you have some fun. And I hope that actually for everyone, which kind of leads me into how I like to start things out. I always like to start things out with love because I think that that's what we need more of, not to be cliche, but also it just kind of helps set the intention because hopefully this is about spreading a little love to each other. So I want to definitely make sure that I send each of you love. I'm also sending each of you prayers. I'm sending you prayers of peace. I'm sending you prayers of happiness, of health, of rest, because we could use some rest. I mean, the world is opening back up again. Things are kind of moving around after it's kind of like seems like a lot of people have decided COVID doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. Hey, it is what it is. I just say stay vigilant because, it is still out here, but just take care of yourself. But I think we're all ready to move. We're all feeling a little stir crazy, myself included. I am totally all about it. I would like a hot girl summer, just like everybody else. So I say do that. Have fun, but be safe. Think about your health. If we've learned anything this past year from COVID, I would think that one thing we have all learned is that health is wealth. And I'm not just talking about physical health too, even though that's super important. That's why I wanted to make sure I emphasized rest. Prayers of rest are definitely needed because I think with the world moving so quickly again, you get back into that rat race, that we were in before, where it's like you're just constantly going and working, and you're not giving yourself time to breathe. Remember what it felt like to kind of sit down and breathe. We can't forget that great feeling We can't forget the good habits that we learned, eating dinner and lunch and breakfast and spending time with our families. We can't forget those good things because those good things feed into our mental health and our physical health. It all goes hand in hand. So I just want to make sure we kind of stay focused on the fact that, hey, we don't want to lose all the good things. Yes, we want to go back out in the world and do amazingly fun things. I cannot wait to travel myself again outside of the country. But I also don't want to forget the habits that I've learned of taking a slower pace. And I want to kind of value those because those habits help me. Like I said, I'm actually, right now, I can honestly say today, I feel at my happiest, one of my happiest points mentally. And physically, I'm doing really good. And I feel great to be in that position because it has been times where I haven't felt that good before, mentally or physically. And that doesn't mean everything's perfect. I'm still exhausted and overwhelmed, but you know what? I'm doing something about that. So I hope that you get a chance to do something about that for yourself. Just stay vigilant, take care of yourself, and just understand that it's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to be stir crazy. It's okay to kind of be stressed out. I mean, we've been through a lot. And I think we just kind of all need to understand that it's okay not to rush back out into the crazy. Just do your best. That's it. If we just all went out and did our best with the understanding that our best is going to adjust based upon how we feel, I think we'd be unstoppable. So I'm wishing all of you love and happiness and prayers and peace and getting out there and having lots and lots of fun. But I'm also wishing for you that you remember that you are doing your absolute best. And your absolute best is extremely good enough. So be gentle with yourself, stay vigilant, and make sure you're washing your hands. It's still critical out there. Wash your hands. And have fun. I know that kind of goes a little hand. Hopefully it goes hand in hand at this point, but I think we need it. I definitely do. I know right now, like I said, I feel great, but I really am at the point now where it's all about the joy for me. I have to find the joy in things. I was sitting down today because I took the day off, yesterday and today off from my job. So I was home with my mom, and I really didn't have anything too much planned. All I did was I wanted to do grocery shop, so I didn't have to do that on Saturdays like I normally do, or just kind of, get some of the other little errands and stuff done so that I could just kind of chill. Well, I had gotten my groceries and stuff done, and I was sitting down, and I was watching Netflix, and it was great. I had my blanket, my mom was taking a nap, the house was quiet and cool, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of joy and happiness at the stillness of that. And I said, I have to make sure that I value moments like that, but that I also duplicate moments like that, as many moments like that as I possibly can. So I have just made a mental note to myself that I have to make sure that I prioritize things that bring me joy this summer and for the rest of this year and moving forward. So I'm just kind of taking the summer and the rest of this year right now because, we always say things and we don't make it a habit. So I'm trying not to say something and just let it go by the wayside. So for the rest of this summer, because I want it to be a habit, I am really going to focus on doing those things that bring me joy. If it doesn't bring me joy, I don't want it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I hope you guys take that same beat and figure out the things that bring you joy and commit to doing things only that bring you joy. And I know everyone's going to laugh and say, well, there's a lot of stuff in our everyday life that just doesn't bring us joy and we have to do that. Of course, you're going to still do those things that don't bring you joy, but you're also going to commit to doing things that do bring you joy. There's a difference. Ha ha ha. You thought you had me. But anywho, so kind of going into joy, that brings me into this week's topic a little bit. I was kind of floundering about how I wanted to go about this. I think my chill mode is on, so my mind wasn't as focused as I'd like to be. So I'm going to do my best this week with a good episode. I hope you like it. And I don't know how long it's going to be because my notes are everywhere. But you know what? We're going to make it do what it do, because just know that it's coming from me and it's all about joy and happiness. So like I said, I was kind of floundering this week. I was going to talk more about You Are Your Best Thing by Tarana, Burke, and Brene Brown. And just the proper title is You Are Your Best Thing, Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience. And it's an anthology. I am in love with this book. If you missed last week's episode, you missed me kind of lay the foundation for how much I'm in love with this book, because of the fact that it is just like such a poignant, beautiful collection of stories of vulnerability. And I mean real vulnerability. People get deep in this book. And it is just so, there's so much healing in this. And there's just so many points where I think people could see themselves in this book. So I feel like I just want to tell everybody about it, because I think when you find good resources that tap into the things that, just kind of hit us all in certain aspects of our lives, the things that we struggle with and we just kind of try to struggle through, but you see that somebody was able to heal themselves outside of it, I think that gives us an opportunity to realize that, one, we're all very similar, even though we have so many differences. And then two, it starts to give us all that room that we need, that encouragement that we need to be vulnerable. And I think that there is healing in truth and love and vulnerability. So I'll leave the link to last week's episode there. I would definitely recommend that you check it out. But like I was saying, I was going to talk more about it. And it's funny because I have kind of really committed myself to reading this book. I'm actually halfway through, which I'm really excited about. It seems so easy. And that actually was has been my nighttime routine. The last hour of the night that I'm up before I go to sleep, I read a story. And luckily the essays are very concise. It's easy to go through, like one or two. And so I love reading that at night. And I would definitely, again, say that is a great nighttime ritual as you're looking to try to decompress, find something that you're really inspired by that really speaks to you, and let that be the way that you end your evening, so that your thoughts are ending on something that's positive. But like I said, it was great, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's funny because when I was reading the other night, I thought of this guy that I actually really used to like in one of the stories. One of the stories that really touched me was Never Too Much by Mark Lamont Hill. And Mark Lamont Hill, he is a well-known journalist. You've probably heard of him. I'll make sure I link some information about him in the show notes as well. And so I was really surprised. I didn't realize that he had written a piece for the collection. And his article, or his essay called Never Too Much, really journals his dealing with the fact that he was an emotional child, and how he wasn't in a space as a young black man, a young black boy, growing up in a family, even though, he had a nuclear family with his father and his mother, there wasn't enough space for him to be vulnerable. And it made me think of, like I said, this guy I used to like, because he was really a sweet dude, very nice man. And I always felt like we had a connection that was deeper than physical. Like, I was attracted to him. He's a very handsome dude. But I also felt like there was like a mental, like a spiritual kind of connection. It was. I really do. I felt it was like that way. Just like there was something intrinsically connecting to us. But it didn't work out. I mean, it just never would come together. It was kind of one of those situations, like, you like each other, you might like each other, who knows if you like each other. You try some things out, it doesn't go very far. It just like never works, no matter what you do. I think like David Copperfield couldn't have made it work, probably. But we just couldn't get it together. But still, very nice guy. But anywho, like I was saying, when I was reading it, it made me think of him, because I always felt like he was very emotional. And I feel like that is something that a lot of Black men are. Like, I think Black men are very sensitive. And I think that growing up in a household that does not cater to images of Black men, or maybe even men in general, but I'm going to speak about Black men, and not being able to freely express their emotions, I think that that is a lot of the challenges, or part of the challenges that Black women and Black men face in regards to having relationships, because some Black men are growing up in a household where they are taught to be strong and to be uber strong and focused and a provider, which are all great things. But then they're not able to tap into the emotions, the tears, the lovingness that's needed to really cultivate to cultivate relationships, because you have to be able to tap into your emotional side. You have to be able to communicate what you're feeling in order to be able to have a healthy relationship with yourself or with anyone else. And so it really just kind of struck me about how this book really kind of opens the doorway for that, because a lot of times we don't really talk about it. I mean, we talk about the fact that, again, men are taught to be providers and to just achieve and excel, but we're not talking about the fact that they were taught to cultivate their feelings, to acknowledge when they're hurt, and to be able to articulate that hurt to a point where they can process and heal. And if I think about it, even as Black women, that's also a harder thing for us as well, especially as you see Black women take on sometimes more of the leadership role in a lot of situations, because that's what we have to do. I mean, a lot of us are the heads of our home, or we're trying to accomplish, we're very career driven. We have become that stronger, dominant person. So a lot of times, if you're dealing with someone who is strong and dominant, but they're not able to understand how to process someone who's also strong and dominant, all you do is have a situation where people are butting heads and not giving space for true listening and understanding, because you don't know how to move past your ego. And again, it's not just a one-sided thing. That can happen to women just like men, but it really does show that it's a cycle. And, I think that it has definitely contributed to a lot of challenges that Black men and Black women face in trying to love each other. So, like I said, it just kind of made me think of him, because I think he struggled with those feelings. I think he struggled with being able to communicate his emotions, with being able to trust. And I thought about him instantly, because I was like, I could see him reading this book and hopefully he would find benefit of it. But I think there's other men and women as well who would also think that, because I just think that too many times we don't get an opportunity to, have conversations with people that we have cared about and loved, and it didn't work out because maybe we're seeking closure, even though you really can't see closure, because closure is about you. I don't know where I was going with that. I do know where I was going with it. It's just, wouldn't it be cool if you could actually eventually become friends, and you have that conversation and you're able to kind of do what they always say, what is it? I think an autopsy. Yeah, autopsy of your relationship or the situationship or whatever you were trying to accomplish. And you're able to kind of bring that to light. Like, you felt like there was just not enough emotional bandwidth from that person. And how you can maybe kind of guide them down to a path where they may be able to be healing. I don't know. Now that I say that, it's like, is that really possible? It depends on the situation. Maybe that's a little too high level mature for us all. But ultimately what I'm saying is that this book is so powerful because, to me, there is opportunity for everyone to see themselves inside of it. And the reason that I'm sharing that is because I wanted you to see this is even more of a reason why to look at it. In reference to the guy, for me, talking about this and why I'm sharing it is this is kind of like a transparency moment for me, because I know from myself, talking about it kind of helps me stay focused on what's in front of me versus not looking back. Because I think too many times as women, we look back at people that we wanted and we get stuck there. I've gotten stuck there. I've been stuck and I don't want to be stuck anymore. So I'm trying to be more accountable when I have feelings of the past so that I can make sure that I focus on continuing to move forward. And I think a lot of us need to kind of do that work because, it's all about the forward movement for me, boo. But like I said, the book is powerful and I think can touch some very vulnerable places that can foster growth and healing in a lot of different people. It doesn't necessarily have to be geared toward women. I think it could be obviously geared toward a man. It's about just being willing to open yourself and being vulnerable and kind of digging into that. So I just feel like that's, again, kind of one of those things. And I just was wanting to make sure that I was holding myself accountable so that I can stay focused on the goals moving forward, not heading back to the past, because I've been that girl. I don't know if anybody else has been that girl, but I have been that girl. And she's done. She's tired. She's old. She's ready for forward thinking, forward movement, and whoever's coming in the front, because they'll damn sure be better, I'm sure, than what was in the past. But anywho, so like I said, that's kind of another plug for the book, and I will make sure that it is definitely in the show notes, but I wanted to share that because, I just think that it's a great book. And when I find great resources that can help us all on the journey to being our best selves, I have to share them. So this week, though, I wanted to kind of talk about the power of being your own cheerleader. Yep, I said being your own cheerleader. I thought that could actually kind of be a good flip of this because we've been talking about the power of vulnerability with you are your best thing. But I also think at the same time, you got to flip it. And we have to all get accustomed to being our own cheerleader. And I think it's important because when you're vulnerable, remember, you've had that opportunity to face the areas of your life that need work, that need healing. And you give yourself an opportunity to acknowledge that pain and forgive yourself for it. And that's what a lot of these stories in the book are about. But even when you've done that, I think that one of the most important things that we have to do when we're doing that, when we're forgiving ourselves for the actions that we have, is we have to learn how to speak over ourselves in a positive way so that we can talk about the places that we have now moved forward to. Because I think that a lot of times when we're talking about being vulnerable, vulnerability can get dark and vulnerability can keep you in a space where you are just, unfortunately, just reliving a highlight reel of pain if you haven't really truly moved forward from it. Because forgiveness takes time. Everybody likes to act like, oh, I talked about my pain. I admitted that I made these mistakes and I'm good. I don't really think so. I know for myself, I've said that numerous times to myself about different situations, and it has taken me actually doing the work, like speaking over myself, in some instances, writing down the things that I messed up with and burning it, just so that you can go through the rituals of removing that negative energy for your life and just really trying to process and heal, because healing takes work. It's not just I speak it into the atmosphere and it magically goes away. That doesn't happen. So a lot of times you can get caught up in that cycle of holding on to that vulnerability if you're not careful. Because when you give something life through your words, because remember, life and death is in the tongue, you bring it into the atmosphere. Once you brought it into the atmosphere, then you have to move in a way to remove it, to close that off, because it's just important that you do, or again, you wind up in that loop. So that's why I think you have to be very honest about it. That's why I think you have to write it out. You have to burn it. You have to move through it. You have to do the rituals so that you can really forgive yourself. Forgive yourself through your words and through your actions. So I think then once you do that, that's where it has to be, where you start to talk about the things that you have done past that are great. And yeah, I said the great things because let's be honest, there are a lot of great things that we do every day, but that we just don't give ourselves credit for doing. Waking up every day and going into the world is an act of bravery, especially when you're struggling with something. It really is. Because you don't know what each day is going to hold. But many of us get up every day and we go out there. Or right now, many of us log on to the world, but we still put ourselves out there with only like a little blueprint or a planned agenda for the day of what's going to happen. And it's funny because you do that so easily. And it's like I said, and that's an act of bravery. But when it comes down to dealing with ourselves and talking about the great things that we do, we tend to get scared. Because it's always easier to talk about the negative. It's always harder to talk about the positive. And that's the crazy contradiction of life. Because again, we're so brave doing what we're obligated to do, but we're so scared when it comes to sharing what we want to do or talking about the great things that we have done. You know, that's why we have to start normalizing conversations around being our own cheerleader. Because yes, we've talked about being vulnerable. We've talked about the importance of it. We've talked about doing the work, but you have to be able to accept that you're the shit. And seriously, and that's okay. That's wonderful. Because again, you have to be able to normalize those moments. And I always think when I looked around, because when I was researching the episode, I thought about it. I was like, I feel like there's been a lot of conversations previously around being your own cheerleader. I really do. I've seen it with some self-help gurus, etc., talk about it. But I always think that in order for the concept or belief to really stick, you need an opportunity for repetition. It's kind of like what I said when you're dealing with your vulnerability, when you're dealing with your hurts and your pains. You can talk about it for a hot minute, but if you don't take some form of action at that point afterwards to move past it, you're just going to stay in that continuous cycle. So it kind of goes back to the flip with acknowledging the great things that you do and being able to be your own cheerleader. You need that opportunity for repetition because it takes 30 days to form a habit. So how many of you guys are really out here also sitting here telling yourself daily that you're the shit? I mean, really. I know for myself, I don't tell myself daily. Maybe once or twice a week, I tell myself I'm the shit. But I'm not really getting into it daily. And how many of you are really getting real and vulnerable with yourself to heal daily? Or are you doing like most of us are doing, just prioritizing getting through your obligations and getting to yourself when you can? Because like I mentioned, that's typically what we all do. But again, bravery when it comes to getting through the day and doing what we have to do, that's ingrained in us. But then when it's straight fear when it comes to acknowledging or celebrating what we are and what we want to do. That's why conversations like this are so important because we're setting an intention right now. You probably don't realize this. Not that I'm burning sage or lighting crystals, even though I can do that too, and I will after I record this. But we are setting an intention right now because we're putting something positive in the air. We're believing we're the shit, and we are believing that we're going to be our own cheerleaders, and we're manifesting that. And through that belief and through that manifestation, it's going to expand. Because like I mentioned earlier, the power of life and death is in your tongue. So when you're intentional and you speak over yourself, you bring that energy back to you 10 times over. So say to yourself right now, you're the shit. I mean, seriously, like actually say it to yourself and say it to yourself daily for the next 30 days until it becomes second nature. I mean, I have seen this video lately on Instagram. I think it's on TikTok, and I'm not on TikTok, but I saw it where people have been setting it up for their reels. Anywho, it's where this young lady, you hear a voice of a guy, and the guy's asking this girl, well, what would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And the girl says she's a 10. And he's like, no, like really, what would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And she's like, no, I'm a 10. And it's like she keeps saying this over and over again, and the dude keeps challenging her on it. And I'm like, that's exactly right. How many of us actually feel that way about ourselves right now? Like we're a 10. Like everybody's a 10. And you have to believe that about yourself, because we have to understand beauty standards are subjective. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It's not what we get conditioned to believe that beauty is. And beauty is so much more than the physical. It's the internal. It's your soul. It's all, to me anyway, it takes all of these wonderful things to make someone beautiful. It's not about having the tightest dress on or the most expensive clothes or all that. No. Beauty is who you are, because each of us are unique and special in our own wonderful ways. And all of those things make us beautiful. So we should know every day that we are a 10. And so the same thing with this. It's like you have to know it in your soul. You have to actually say it to yourself. Like I said, 30 for 30 days daily. And like make it second nature, because that's where you begin giving yourself space to receive and to believe that. Because we have to make sure that we normalize speaking over ourselves with positivity. Just like we normalize conversations about our struggles and our challenges, we have to be able to normalize conversations about how wonderful we are, about all the great things that we do, because that's part of healing. That's part of the journey. Those positive words will unlock into yourself. They will unlock you speaking life over yourself. And that's a major act of bravery, because more often than not, we are our hardest critics. I know for myself, I put so much undue stress on myself, especially I think more so. No, I'm going to say just in general. I've been that person. I'm a reformed people pleaser, and I am a reforming. Let me just put it that way. Let me just correct that. I'm reforming. And I constantly am at sometimes like second guessing myself. Like, I should have done it, or even doing things when I don't want to do it, or trying to please everybody. I always say, I used to be so much more tactful. And when I think about it, was I tactful? I was, but I wasn't giving people the real. And now I just am not at that point. I don't have the patience for that, for myself or for other people, because I feel like that's not giving the trueness of the situation, of who I am and of who they are. So it's like we put so much pressure to be all these amazing things to everybody, and you can't do that. And I mean, I've always held myself, like I said, to an extremely high standard, and it's been hard. And the pressure that I have put on myself has caused many weights. But they are things that I have had to learn, that I had to let go, because there is beauty in honesty. Honesty is not a bad thing when you're saying it with love. Because personally, I would never try to say something to someone knowing that I could tear them apart. When people do that, that's a reflection of that person. There's something wrong with that person, because hurt people hurt people. So you don't have to operate like that when you know who you are. And if you do operate like that right now, you might need to get some help, because that's not what you were born to do. And that's not how you should treat people, because you would never want somebody else to tear you apart when they're being vulnerable with you. Because remember, there is vulnerability, the truth and vulnerability. They go together. So you can't be that wall trying to rip people apart when they're sharing their truths with you. That's why there's such a lack of trust. That goes back to even what we were talking about with relationships with Black men and Black women. And I would think even with men and women in general, when a lot of times people share their truths and they're vulnerable with you, and then you have somebody who comes back and throws it in your face, that is a breach of trust. And people have to understand, you might think that you're being petty in an argument, but what you're doing is trying to rip somebody apart just for sport. And that's not right. And your words have power. We just have to recognize the power of our words, our actions, and our thoughts. It all, again, flows together. That's why it's so important to normalize being to speak over yourselves with positivity. Because, again, that's bravery, and recognizing the power that someone is giving you when they are being that way. So like I said, it's hard, and we are our harshest critics, and we have to let that go, because we are giving ourselves so much more stress than what we need to do. When we just release it, it's amazing how God and the universe will rise back up to meet you and give you peace and rest. That's why it's just so important to be able to just recognize the power of who you are. It's your words, it's your actions, it's your intention, it's everything, because you are the shit. And don't let anyone out here make you feel less than that. But while and they may not see what you see, but it doesn't matter, because as long as you keep speaking into yourself every day, telling yourself who you are and what you can accomplish, and normalize being your own cheerleader, the universe will give back to you tenfold what you are putting out, and you'll see your life change. That's the power of you. That's the power of us. That's the power of our words and our thoughts and our intention. It all wraps together. So that's why I said there's healing in vulnerability, and there's truth in vulnerability, but don't wallow in it. Make sure that you do the work so that you can heal, but also then start to flip it and normalize the fact that you're a bad, bad, bad bitch. And that's a good thing. Yes, honey, you are a cheerleader for yourself. And share that and be honest with it and accept it and speak over yourself. Because when other people can't speak over you, you've got to be able to speak into you. Because a lot of times that's what's going to help you get to your next level. Because I've talked to you guys about it before. Remember, not everybody's going to be able to go with you as you are building to your next level. Not everybody's going to be able to understand what you're doing when you're building to your next level. And that's okay. But as long as you use that mouth, use that tongue, use that heart, use your mind to speak into yourself, to be that motivation when other people can't, the universe will give you more people who can see it. And the more people who can see it will help feed you. They'll be the battery in your back that you need to keep growing. While that other person is sitting there on the outside looking in, wondering, well, dag, how did they get that way? Because they blocked out the negativity. You moved past that, and you kept focused and remembering how bad you are. Because remember, you're a 10, you're number 1. You deserve the best. You are uniquely and divinely made to be exceptional and to achieve. Don't ever forget that. And then you're going to go out here and you're going to do amazing things. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about this week. I wanted you to know you're bad. You are exceptional. You are divine, one of a kind. You are a cheerleader. You are the shit. And don't let anybody go out here and tell you less. So do the work, do some healing, but then also make sure you couple that healing with, ooh, I'm bad. And do some amazing, wonderful things. So I want to thank you guys for listening this week. Like I said, I wouldn't be before you long. It's a holiday weekend, so I'm going to go chill. I hope you chill. Like I mentioned, I hope your weekend is filled with lots of love, lots of peace, lots of health, lots of rest, lots of wonderful things. Speak over yourself. Seriously, make it a part of your routine every day that you tell yourself, you know what? I am the shit. I am doing great things. And acknowledge all the great things you do, no matter how small, because every small win is a battery to keep you fulfilled, keep you going like the Energizer Bunny until you start doing more great things. You got to feed into yourself, because sometimes you're not going to get that from outside. And that's okay, because that's on them. But remember, you are strong. You are capable. You are worthy. Feed into yourself. And I promise the universe will give you 10 times more people to feed into you as well. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. I will definitely be back next week. I'm really excited because I have some good things planned. I have a special guest coming up soon too. Can't wait to introduce her to you guys. And I will talk to you next week. All of my information will be in the show notes. Take care of yourselves and each other. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.